What about county clerks? Should they issue same-sex marriage licenses?
If they have a conscientious objection, I think they should be excused. I'm not sure that every governor and every attorney general should just say, well, it's the law of the land because there's no enabling legislation.
Mike Huckabee is just one of the GOP candidates who's railing against the Supreme Court decision that legalized gay marriage nationwide. All of them are against it, and now some red states like Texas are saying they refuse to enforce it. Brad, let me turn to you here. I mean, we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming following the Supreme Court's decision.
Sure.
But how does this play out politically? Does it help Republicans? And as you're answering, I want to show the poll that came out a few weeks before, a Gallup poll, that shows support for same-sex marriage now at 60%. In May of 2014, it was only at 55%.
Look, this is a great opportunity for the Republicans to just leave it behind. It was a loser issue for them, and for them to keep beating the drum about.
But wait a minute, it doesn't play for red meat to the base?
Well, here's the problem: is the base is screaming, "Do something about it! Do something about it!" I mean, this is a main plank in their platform. They have to, but. The reality is this is not going to do anything positive at the end of the day to start telling states not to enforce it, start telling municipalities not to enforce the law of the land. That's a problem. So you get yourself into a quandary when you start to do that, especially as a Republican, because you're supposed to be. It's supposed to be all about the laws, okay? That we have that we follow. This is a land of laws and rules, and we all should follow it. So this is a lose-lose for the Republicans. They should just leave it behind, start moving forward, and talk about other things.
Professor, is it a lose-lose for the Republicans? Do you agree?
Yeah, it absolutely is. Look, the Supreme Court did them a favor by taking this off the table. And now you have people like Jeb Bush, maybe Chris Christie, who else can run in the general election if they get there and don't have to deal with this. But if they make an issue of this, it's going to be a problem for them. But that said, they are going to push this issue of religious liberty versus the right to gay marriage. And that's something that some people believe on the right can bring out some kind of silent base, silent vote. And so that's what they're banking on. I don't know if it would work, but that's what they're talking about.
Senator Lindsey Graham is saying that his party should give up trying to force a constitutional amendment on this issue. Do you think we're going to see more calls for that? Just politics at play here?
Absolutely. And, they should give up the issue of a constitutional amendment. But what they're going to do, again, is they're going to put the First Amendment against this right to gay marriage. And they're going to have those butt heads. And we've seen with the Religious Freedom Acts across the country, that's something that may play with their base.
I think it's definitely a losing issue in the general election. I agree with everybody. Unfortunately for the Republicans, I think it's a winning issue in the primaries. So many of the people that come out in states like South Carolina, Iowa.
So igniting the base.
This is a big issue for the evangelical community. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Rick Perry, Rick Santorum, Ted Cruz, all these folks, Mike Huckabee certainly, making this an issue to get more traction in the primaries. The drawback is it's a detriment in the general election. The broader problem, and I am for gay marriage. I always have been, much longer than Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have been, by the way. That's why it's so interesting to me to see Barack Obama positioning himself as this champion of same-sex marriage when he was out there campaigning for Proposition 8 in California, which said marriage was between a man and a woman. The problem, though, Dominic, is 11 states, through their democratically elected representatives or through referendum, have approved gay marriage. Every other state in the union, in spite of the fact there's been no law passed, has had this imposed upon them by a court. So be careful what you wish for, folks. If you like what the Supreme Court's doing today, you can bet that one day the Supreme Court is going to enact a law on its own with no legislation that you don't like.
And that's why one of the most important things the president can do is to appoint Supreme Court justices, and that's why it really does matter, from a standpoint of what the future beholds is who our president is at that time, because a lot of things can change. And something, if you're a liberal, you're very happy whether you like Barack Obama or you don't like Barack Obama, but you were very happy on who he appointed to that Supreme Court. It changed things dramatically across this country.
Professor, before we toss to the break here, the opposition, the argument that you mentioned where folks are going to be saying that faith should be a factor in denying these types of marriage licenses, How big of an issue is this going to be with states like Texas and others saying we're not going along with this?
It's going to be a huge issue, and it's something that John Roberts mentioned in his dissent, and it's going to be a huge issue. And look, it was the Democrats that put in place the first Religious Freedom Act way back in the 1980s. And I absolutely agree with Frank that the problem is you could get out a base of Republicans here who feel that their religious liberty is threatened by this decision and this quote-unquote legislating from the bench. You'd much rather have the court not legislating in this way and these things being done by the legislatures of the state or the nation. And that hasn't happened here.
On that note, it is time for a break. Up next, the media is having a field day, saying crime in New York City is soaring. But top cop Bill Bratton told us everyone should just calm down.